I'm Deepa Salem, an analyst with SAP Insider, in charge of application development, databases, and integration. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Andrew Worsley-Tonks, CTO for SAP Services in IBM DACH. Andrew and his team have been responsible for rolling out an intelligent workflow solution based on SAP Workflow Management that provides end-to-end process visibility, flexible business rules, and enables insight to action. Andrew, we're very happy to welcome you. Can we start with an introduction to you and your role at IBM, please?
Yeah, hi Deepa. Thank you so much for having me. As Deepa said, my name is Andrew Worsley-Tonks. I'm one of our IBM Distinguished Engineers and our CTO for SAP in DACH. I'm also part of our global SAP CSC, so I have a global remit helping our clients really accelerate their digital transformation, specifically associated to SAP, whether that's S/4HANA, whether that's the SAP Business Technology Platform, but also everything that surrounds the SAP ecosystem as well.
Fantastic. Because we were very curious to learn about your solution that's based off on SAP Workflow Management, and very curious to learn about it. Would you mind walking us through what it does, why it offers benefits for clients?
So maybe let me start with what we've been doing for the last few years. So we launched a few years ago with SAP the Evolution Partnership, and it's really focused on industry cloud solutions. So how do we actually help clients extend beyond the core SAP application? And therefore, as part of SAP and IBM's strategy, we have looked to build a platform that really supports and brings the best of breed of SAP technology and other technology that can support clients' requirements. And therefore, the IBM Essentials platform for SAP is what we have built all of these intelligent workflows on, using the SAP Business Technology Platform, and specifically the workflow management services that we're here to talk about today. So when we look at these intelligent workflows, what we've done is we've used BTP and the set of services within the workflow management that allows us to execute end-to-end processes across applications, regardless of whether that's SAP or non-SAP. It drives automation, it drives standardization, it drives intelligence, and allows us to have visibility across the end-to-end spectrum. That is really what all of our clients are looking for today.
Fantastic. Would you mind walking us through some use cases, and also, in that context, talk about some industries where, this has application and the use cases by industry?
It's targeted at the industry cloud base. So whether that's in industries around IM&C, around retail, around telco. So there's a series of different use cases. But let me give you a tangible example. So one of the intelligent workflows that we have developed and is available. So if you want to go and find out more, it's available on api.sap.com. That's the lead to order process that's specifically focused at IM&C clients. And therefore, it takes the end-to-end process all the way from engaging with the customer. And that can be through either external party systems or chat-based requests to capture the quote, right? So it goes all the way from the initial quote, automatically generates a quote, allows the interaction across the board through to the CPQ, SAP CPQ quote system, capturing that quote, returning it back to the customer, and then going all the way through to S/4HANA. And throughout that process, right, it's obviously something that generally, if you don't do it automatically, takes a long time. But it also means that you don't have any real visibility of what's happening unless you dig into each of these given systems. And one of the things that we're really able to do with workflow management and with the BTP platform is orchestrate these end-to-end flows across, as I said, applications, and provide visibility to mid-level managers, for example, so that they can see these processes. And every single client setup is very unique, right? Some are very SAP heavy, SAP centric, and they may be using some of the C for HANA Suite. Others may be using things like Salesforce, or maybe having an S4HANA or ECC backend. And therefore, the beauty of the intelligent workflows that we have built within workflow management is that it's all event-driven and API-based. And that means that we can interchange as we start to adjust and adapt to different client setups. Even if these clients are in the same industry, we're able to deploy the solution and therefore connect it, adjust it, configure it to that setup, all through the API-based mechanism.
There's a layer on top of the SAP Business Technology Platform, and then you have offered some plugins that kind of, there's some intelligence built in on the top, and that kind of builds in to the platform. Is it customizable by a solution, by the company that, they can actually, kind of figure out what they need to do and customize that particular layer?
Absolutely. So let me answer that question in two phases. So first of all, you hit the nail on the head. It is an orchestration layer that really sits above. And this is what we call two-tier process orchestration, because there are some parts of the process that should still reside in the core applications. So let's take S4HANA as an application, for example, and some of the procurement processes, or maybe some of the sales processes. There is embedded automation in those solutions. There is a lot of data integrity and connections within those applications, and it's built in. And all of that automation, intelligence, etc., we want to remain within those core processes. However, what we don't want to do is make them super custom, super complex, because that's what we've done in the past, and it's made them really difficult to maintain and creates less business agility. So therefore, for everything that should be maybe a little bit more tailored, or there's a variant that comes into play for a different market, or there's a variant that comes into play for a different customer, all of those come up to that orchestration layer. So it covers things like workflow, it covers things like specific business rules, it covers things like some of the RPA components, and all of that complexity that historically we probably built into the core that made these applications so big and complex, we now have the ability to bring above. And going back to your question, right, so these are predefined, but when we look at deploying them for each of our clients, there's a set of business rules that are configurable. And therefore, we can do a first level of configuration as we set this up, so that we tailor it to, let's say, the organizational units or the specific requirements that they have. And then in addition to that, one of the benefits with SAP Workflow Management is it's a low-code, no-code environment. So when we start working with end users or super users, they also have the ability, based on these predefined rules that we've set, to customize them themselves.
I can see the benefit of it. There's a company level customization, and then there's a user level. Andrew, what specific SAP technologies that you use that are underlying? You mentioned Business Technology Platform. You talked about SAP Workflow Management.
Yes. So the core part of what we're doing is based on the SAP BTP platform, right? And then within those, within BTP, there's a set of key services that we focus on. The workflow management solution, process visibility, business rules. There's things like SAP CPI for all of the integration events, and then also SAP Event Mesh for all of the event trigger components. But there's also non-SAP components too, right? So as I said, we've built this up in partnership with SAP, and this is really tailored and aimed for what I would call SAP-centric environments. So clients that have a very heavy SAP footprint, but who have started to move to this hybrid architecture deployment model, all industries, right? And what that creates today is a distributed environment with this hybrid architecture that I was referring to. but it also means that it's no longer just about SAP realistically. And there's many SAP components, right? That could be a bit of Ariba, that could be a bit of C/4HANA, S/4HANA, et cetera. But as I said earlier, it could be other solutions as well, right? O9 or Salesforce, etc. And regardless of the applications that are in the overall architecture, you want to be able to have a common standard that you can use that integrates across all of them, regardless of whether they're SAP or non-SAP.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I can see the criticality of it. Recently, SAP Insider did a research on integration, and what we found is since the last time we did it, maybe early last year that we did this research to now, the number of integration points around SAP has gone up from 7 to 11. So it's obviously, like you said, there are a proliferation of applications that sit around SAP, so which makes it, like you said, the integration as well as the orchestration of a process across these various applications super complicated. So when you look at the solution, Andrew, what are some of the requirements from a business and a technology standpoint that companies need to have? You can talk about it in terms of people, process, and technology.
And I think when we look at the first number one big shift when we go to deploy these solutions is a change in mindset, right? And that is a mindset from a business user perspective, but also from an IT standpoint. And the concept of what we call a control tower that allows us to control these intelligent workflows, right? So breaking down the process silos so I can see everything. I can actually define the specific KPIs that I want to monitor. And then I can do insight to action is a key element and an adjustment that is valid from a business standpoint, but also from a technology standpoint.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the whole concept of low code and no code that's used by the business user itself is both presents a huge opportunity, but also brings a lot of challenges, right? Like you said, the mindset, but also all the compliance and the data access and all kinds of issues from a technology side as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that you need to look at is how ready is the organization for that, right? And some organizations that I'm working with are actually extremely mature, have been using the SAP Business Technology Platform for a very long time, have got lots of experience in integration using CPI. They've got a lot of cloud native apps running on BTP. And therefore, when it comes to expanding and deploying these new solutions, they take it and they run, right? Whereas others are on the other extreme of the spectrum. And that takes more time. That really does take a little bit more training. And this is where using our IBM DACH approach that allows us to actually identify and co-create specific workflows for areas, right, specific to the business.
Okay. Super, yeah. That's an interesting point, which brings me to the next question, which is really around what are these clients that have adopted the solution? What are they trying to achieve? Like, what are the key drivers that somebody considers from a business standpoint, from a technology standpoint, that makes them consider your solution?
Yeah, so I'd say there's probably 3 dimensions, right? One is reduce complexity within the core, right? This frustration around super complex processes. How do I standardize more? How do I actually drive better efficiency, better automation, better standardization within the core and deliver that business flexibility at a second level? The second area is we don't want to maintain a super complex hybrid architecture where we have zero visibility of what's going on. And having the orchestration layer that really sits over the top gives that visibility that allows the organization not only to monitor, automate, and execute what's happening, but also go back to that insight to action component, right? So as you evolve through the maturity of these processes, once you know what's happening and you can start to monitor those KPIs, you can proactively start to address those. The big second dimension is how do I ensure end-to-end process visibility throughout the organization, and regardless of whether they're SAP or non-SAP applications. And then the third one would be around the user experience, right? How do I actually provide better user experience to the business? How do I actually, avoid a lot of people going into some of these core applications? If I only need to do some light touch activities, how do I get access to these KPIs? How do I actually get access to some of these approvals without having to go into each and every individual application?
So the measurement aspect and the ability to react and improve the processes is probably something huge. In just terms of your, the clients that are using your solution, can you talk about, a couple of examples, what they did, and also, if possible, what kind of benefits they achieved in terms of, some kind of KPIs or, the people issues, the user experience issues that you talked about?
Process automation, right? The acceleration and the execution, so less FTEs. We've seen, significant reduction in FTEs in certain areas, and therefore move to shared service centers that have helped a lot of those components. Second area is data-driven insights, right? So no longer being reactive and having to depend on lots of people to report and capture the information and really grind it. And we've been able to actually reuse a lot of those people to proactively simulate and predict the outcomes that have come from some of these processes.
From a client standpoint, who is making these buying decisions? Is it coming from ITs primarily, or is there a business user or a LOB leader who is influencing this kind of a request for such a solution?
Yeah, so it's definitely business driven. The people that buy are really, the CFO, the CPO, Chief Procurement Officer, etc., based on the use cases that we're looking to address.
Thanks for that. I think it was pretty enlightening to see what's happening out in this space. The reality is these proliferation of applications and the deployment venues, that's not going to go away anywhere in the short term. So the more we have to solve the problems of, the workflow interconnectedness is very critical. So I look forward to seeing what you have to deliver in the next several years, and all the best. And thanks again for joining us today, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.